start from the beginning. So this year started off in Southern California with family and friends. Before heading back to New York City, I took a trip to Montreal to experience a very snowy and very chilly Canada. This was my first time visiting a city so covered in snow and braving temperatures negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I arrived back in New York City at the end of January and began the hunt to find my own apartment. It took about 2.5 weeks of touring countless apartments and couch hopping in the meantime until I finally found the perfect spot. I'll admit it was a very anxiety-inducing experience, but it was ultimately a very proud adult moment for me, since this was my first time renting my own apartment and signing a lease completely on my own. The next few months consisted of just trying to survive my first real winter in New York City and trying to beat the winter blues by hanging out with friends and deepening relationships. I started working at The Wing, which is a woman-centric co-working space, and it's been a godsend as I try to navigate working by myself on a computer all day. Alongside trying to stick to kind of my own 9-to-5 schedule while working remote, there was concerts and nights out and birthday parties and fashion shows, as well as a little weekend trip in March to Nashville. As April rolled around, I had the insane opportunity to go to India for 2 weeks with Kentucky. India's always been one of those places I've dreamed of visiting, but I figured it would never really become a reality for me, so this trip was surreal. During my time there, I discovered that India has one of the most beautiful, kind, and open cultures I've ever experienced. Mark Twain describes India far better than I ever will be able to when he wrote, "India is the cradle of human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great-grandmother of tradition." The transition from spring into summer included long days and sweet little moments. One of my best friends from college, Grace, visited me in New York City, as well as my mom and sister, Sage, soon after. I teamed up with the Utah Board of Tourism and visited Salt Lake City with Ashley, and then spent time in New York City just trying to get to know the city better. In June, I flew back to California for my sister's high school graduation and spent quality time with all those I love on the West Coast. It was around this time I started to feel really burnt out from overworking and felt uninspired because I'd been creating weekly videos for about 4 to 5 years straight, and from this, really learned and saw the value of rest and taking time for myself. The summer days in New York City seemed to blend together in just a hot, sweaty blur. There were weekend trips to Philadelphia to see Fish for a family reunion, and Northern California to be a bridesmaid in my friend Kristen's wedding. This summer I learned that you can go to the beach in New York. I saw the Bronx Zoo and I watched fireworks over the New York City skyline. Summer in New York City brings a certain lighthearted energy into the city that I really loved getting to experience. One of my ultimate summer highlights was traveling all the way to Bali in Indonesia to go on a trip with some of my subscribers. It was so crazy to me to have these gals coming from all over the world simply because of this platform here on YouTube. They're some of the quickest friendships I've ever made, and it was an experience I will truly treasure for the rest of my life. Summer eventually began to wind down, and I soaked in the long days after work on the weekends with friends, enjoying all the different opportunities and experiences, and of course the incredible food that New York City has to offer. In September, a longtime dream of mine came true when I attended my first fashion week in New York. I'm still blown away from the events I attended and the people I met. In fall, I went on a trip to Scandinavia with EF Ultimate Break, where I traveled throughout Norway, Sweden, and Denmark with Jenny, and then decided to extend my trip a few days and fly to Berlin, Germany for a solo adventure. Just a few weeks later, the Korea Board of Tourism invited me to South Korea, and I hopped on a plane to work with them. And then flew to Tokyo, Japan for a few days as well. Japan has been my #1 travel destination on my bucket list for years, so it was a dream come true. In October, I went back to California for a quick weekend trip for my brother's wedding, which is just still so crazy to me. It's so unforgettable to experience something like that as a little sister, and I'm so excited for them and their love and to have Evie join our family. Back in New York, I welcomed the change in temperatures and colors of leaves as fall came in full swing. I celebrated my 23rd birthday in November with my favorite motley crew of friends from all over the city, and I honestly was overwhelmed at the community that has formed over the year. There's like a special magic to New York City during the holiday season, and I enjoyed doing some of the main tourist traps, but the month unexpectedly became a hard one for me as certain things didn't go as planned, and I was really happy to return home to California for the Christmas season. This year has taught me so many crucial lessons on what it means to grow up. In a sense, it's been one of the most challenging years of my life. The youthful scales of childhood and naivete truly fell from my eyes, and I feel like I aged 5 years in the span of this one. But with this came a growing appreciation for how aging and the challenges that come along with it shape and enable us to grow a deeper understanding of the world and hopefully develop greater wisdom overall. Oh, New York, my greatest teacher this year. This city has hardened me in ways that were crucial, but of course still very difficult at times. Despite the hard moments, I've absolutely fallen more in love with this chaotic city, and I'm so proud to call it home. New York City teaches you to find your voice and to learn to truly speak up for yourself. I've realized here that honestly nobody really has it figured out, and it's okay if I don't know what I'm doing. Comparison is truly the thief of joy, and success can be found in a combination of vision, skill, and sustained effort. I love the intellect and drive and creativity that swoops you up in these streets, but I've also had to work hard to find a balance this year. A balance between work and friends, and hobbies, and also learning to prioritize myself and simply taking the time to try to get to know a deeper version of who I am and who I want to be. 2019 taught me so much about community and friendships. For one, community does not come easily in a place like New York City. I think it's safe to say that despite being home to over 8 million people, New York City is an inherently lonely place. One of the greatest ironies is that you can brush shoulders with thousands of people a day, yet feel incredibly distant and removed from each body moving around you. It takes intentional work to meet people and develop meaningful connections. This year has shown me that the best way to create genuine connections and grow in areas where I'm striving for success is to try to be unapologetically myself and to not take myself too seriously. As we moved into different chapters of our life, those that we keep near are bound to shift. I learned how hard it is to stay in close touch with friends from the past, but that the ones that matter will always be there. A new chapter requires making space for new people and friendship and ways of thinking, and I'm grateful for each individual that has filled that space in New York and challenged the way I think and act and see the world. This year has also been an affirmation to the fact that one of my favorite feelings in the world is packing a backpack and arriving at an airport feeling like the whole world is at your fingertips and nothing can stop you. I've learned so much about different cultures and religions and ways of living, and I'm so grateful for every time my eyes and heart are opened wider to the beautiful complexities found in each new country, state, and city. Traveling is something I always dreamed of from a young age, and I always hoped to find a job that would allow me to travel the world, and this year it feels like that dream has come true. At the same time, I didn't stay in the same place for more than 4 weeks at a time this entire year, and with that, I definitely grew a greater appreciation for routine in my life, as well as for those friendships where you feel like you can pick back up right where you left off. This year has held some of my greatest memories and strongest emotions I've ever felt. It wasn't until the second half of the year that I slowly learned to be more vulnerable and truly sit and embrace my feelings. There was burnout and anxiety attacks and loneliness and fear. I felt deep love and joy, as well as deep pain and heartbreak on a level I hadn't experienced before. 2019 came to a close with a revival of my love for learning and intellectual growth. It taught me to keep myself accountable. I always want my online life that I share with you to be simply me and not just what I see as an ideal version of myself. I've realized we're too young to settle for good enough. Keep in mind, this does not mean we can skip out on putting in time and hard work and just miraculously dive straight into our dream lives. But I do encourage you to take a look at the key elements of your life that are non-negotiable to reach your dreams regarding your career, passions, relationships, and goals. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. As this year comes to a close, I have many more unanswered questions that I look forward to exploring in the future. One thing I've asked myself and explored is what it means to be alone. I feel that amidst the commotion and chaos of a large city, true solitude is hard to find anywhere but within yourself. And what a world there is to explore, getting to know yourself and your deepest desires and dreams better. I've learned to be alone. Not all the time, but long enough to hear myself and find stillness. I've always been a say yes kind of person, down to run towards the scenarios that scare me or out of the box. I feel like I've been good about facing my fears in certain aspects, making big moves, embarking on adventures, etc. And this year I've slowly pushed myself to practice it in new ways, especially emotionally and mentally. What about the things that truly terrify me? What about the things where I'm scared I'll fail or face rejection or put my heart on the line and open myself to new depths of courage? This year I've searched for my why, my biggest passion, reason, or cause that fuels my decisions and drives me forward. My life mission, what I want to do with myself. And as far as finding this why goes, I can't necessarily say that I found it. I desire to make an impact that will serve the greater good beyond just myself. Isn't it in loving others and fighting for what lights a fire in our chest makes us feel the most human? I encourage you to identify what you want in your life and actively pursue that, pushing through fear or discomfort in the name of growth, fulfillment, and adventure. In our life, we're faced with comfortable security and stagnation, or expansion in search of what is unfamiliar and daunting. So I encourage you to try to think of just even one thing in your daily life to change and start there. So, 2019, thank you for showing me how to grow up, how to live as an authentic version of myself around others, how to embrace loneliness and sit with pain, how to never take an opportunity for granted and to slowly learn more about myself and the person I strive to be. I can't wait to see what this next decade holds.